take a look at Super Rugby AU Round 9, the second week of the Draft Rugby semi-finals. And unfortunately, this week the Reds have the bye, so can't just pick all the Reds players, unfortunately.
I'm really confused by that, mate. You don't want Reds players. You want players against the Western Force.
No, you want Reds
The
players.
result is if the Force have a bye.
I'm going to be honest, I want both. I want whoever's playing the Force and Reds players.
Well, look, when Reds seem to get all the top scorers of the Australian Conference, you do want Reds players, and you want them especially against the Force. But we all know you're going to take Brumbies players against the Force this week.
Look, I'm in a real arm wrestle, but you two are way ahead. Surely it's good if all the top scorers aren't in the game anymore.
I was thinking that as well.
That's true, actually. You just reminded me. I really have to get onto your opposition and start telling him who to pick up for this week, really. Is what I should be concentrating on. But very good. Let's move on. The first game, we do have that the Brumbies and the Force. So, yes, obviously Brumbies will be in high demand. This game, again, at GIO in Canberra, be nice, icy cold. Who wants to run us through the order of proceedings for this game?
I'm happy to jump into it. We can all share the load a little bit. But look, in terms of the returns column, surely we're going to see Folau Fainga, Tavita Kurandrani, probably see Joe Powell come in unless we see Nick White get a little bit more game time this time off the start. And surely we see Henry Stow as someone that was really missed for the Force on the weekend. Can the Brumbies do this one by more than 52 points? What was the bet that was on the weekend, boys? A guy put that $100 on. You were saying it? Yeah, massive amount of money. You just cannot be paying the same again this week. If so, chuck $100 on the Brumbies to score more than 70 or something along those lines. It's been getting bigger and bigger for the Force.
No, that's it. It's like do the Brumbies have it in them to outdo the Reds? Basically, I think we all know the way this game's going, but how big is it going to be?
Well, I think the most impressive thing for the Reds in that was that they were up by so much before the Force completely fell apart. So for the Brumbies to outscore them, they're going to need to be really dominant in the first 50.
Agree. Look, the last time these guys versed each other was in round 4. There's 4 tries to the Brumbies, including 2 in the first 5 minutes. Tom Wright scoring 1 in the first minute. And they threw the ball around. They were looking really, really solid. Yeah, 24-0. So the Force are yet to score against the Brumbies. And we could see it go the same way. Western Force, as Harry just said, they seem to stay in the game relatively early. They can manage to stay in the game. By the time the bench comes on, the team's cooked and they just can't manage to keep up. We heard again and again that this global rapid rugby is so fast and they're going to be so much fitter than all the Super Rugby teams when they turned up. And realistically, it's a bit of a crock of shit. They just can't manage to keep up with this. And look, fair enough, they haven't had the time together to build for a Super Rugby season. But really, the fitness is just not the same level, I think, as these other Super Rugby teams. But it will come, and I wouldn't expect the same next season. But yeah, look, it's that 50 minutes, 50, 60 minutes, that's when it starts to blow out. You've got blokes like Longbottom. How old is that bloke? 37 or something?
I don't know, mate. All I know is that he purposely gave away a yellow card so he'd get the hell off the field.
Yeah, mate, we're saying they can't hold, they can only hold it for 50 to 60 minutes. Mate, Longbottom looks like he can only hold on for about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
On top of that as well, like they're set up in the Gold Coast now, right? That means they're going to have to do a day trip, fly all the way down to Canberra, and then have to come back that night. The team's been away forever. These day trips are really tough. They've got to be up against it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for all their old man bones. I think the average age of that forward pack is 30 plus, so it's going to be tough for them. But it's going to be very cold, and that we were saying that it's a big change coming from Queensland and flying down into Canberra, where it's just icy cold. The forecast is for 4 degrees, but no rain.
On that flying as well, the only away teams to have won flying is everyone against the Force. It doesn't help them here because they are the force. And the Brumbies and the Rebels have managed to do it over the Tars in a couple of games. But
That'd be right.
the Rebels, the Brumbies, and the Reds haven't lost a single game against a team going to their home ground. So I think it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, I think Canberra's got to be that biggest advantage. Everyone's coming from warm weather down to just freezing cold, middle of nowhere, Canberra, where no one wants to live. Sorry, Canberra listeners. You're only there for certain reasons. But
I don't think the cold doesn't really matter that much, mate. Like when you've been playing for 5 minutes, mate, you couldn't tell what temperature it is.
Craig, you listen to the commentators, mate. You're going to say it's dewy about 55 times.
Sure, at least 55. If you played a drinking game, you wouldn't see the second half, put it that way.
Exactly.
We touched on Jack McGregor actually looking to ignite a bit of that attack early on in the game on the weekend, and we think he should probably start again at fly half. He's just a bit of a breath of fresh air for them. He's enthusiastic, he's exciting, and everyone's started to be able to read Jono Lance a bit too much. He plays very flat. Teams are picking him off at will almost when he's doing his wide passes. So, look, I think Jack McGregor for me is the one to start. He wasn't bad at 15, but he's looking better at 10, that's for sure.
He's played his whole life. He's played most of his life at 10. So
yeah,
he looks more settled there.
Yeah, he's definitely a 10.
I still honestly think that it's probably better to have McGregor and Lance on the team and Strawn on the bench.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Strawn.
But you're going to have to get...
You need a guy that's going to win you a game.
That's true.
I agree. Look, I think if McGregor's starting 15, he has to slot into first receiver a lot because if not, Lance just playing flat the way he is, you're not going to keep that defensive line guessing enough at this level, and I think it really does hurt them. I do think he's a good player, but I think they're reading like a book at the moment. There's a few little things as well. People that are missing. Stowers, we just need to see Stowers back. He's such a big influence. Then he gets through so much work rate. I don't mind seeing Lee Warner at blindside, to be fair. I'd love to see him there a little bit more because I can't see him as a lock at Wallabies level. He's just too short, 194, something along those lines, maybe 196. But, look, I think you just need to have Stowers on the park.
I was going to say, I think it's also Tevin Ferris as well. It's just, having Fergus Lee Warner in at lock just allowed them, with that back row of Ferris, Stowers, and Stander, that really allowed them to remain competitive. The amount of work that those guys got through and the amount of tackles where they forced defenders back, didn't give them that gain line ball. That was huge. They really lost that. Like, Koteka's just a very different player. Much more of a on the ball. He's a lot smaller, a bit faster, but
he missed a lot of tackles too.
The loss of both Stowers and Ferris is huge.
The other part of that argument is Ollie Atkins, is obviously the man that's gotten a start by Fergus Lee Warner pushing to 6. And I think he was really, really poor on the weekend.
He's a bum.
He missed a lot of tackles. He wasn't solid at set piece. I wasn't really impressed with him at all. So, look, I think, Henry Stowers to 7 and Kane Koteka back to the bench would probably be an okay option, but they would have to find someone to fill that gap at lock. And I don't think you can put Ollie Atkins in there again. I just think he was too poor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think something that could actually really help that dynamic is if you've seen him in previous season, the NRC, Carlo Tizzano, the guy at the Tars, young 20-year-old flanker, is really, really good. And it's just sad that he tracked across to the Tars this season, obviously not knowing the Force would be in Super Rugby, because he would fit that role perfectly for them, I think, in the back row, and it's something that's quite important. They also the likes of
I said he would have been great, yeah.
Yeah, and they also lost, I think Placid's in their team, and Palmer Fowl. I think, Johan Placid, Palmer Fowl. There's a few guys there.
Jonah Placid?
Sorry?
I think he is, yeah.
Jonah, not Johan. Jonah Placid. He's supposedly in their team. So I don't know what's going on with him or where he is. And Palmer Fowl is another guy that I think I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of. Potential never really fulfilled it, but he's a big body that would be quite interesting to see on the paddock.
On
That's one of the
Placid,
best steps you'll ever see on YouTube.
I think on Placid, the back three for the Force were pretty average. Byron Ralston, for all his good things, he let both of those runs down the blind side against Tate McDermott. He just wasn't watching. So clearly, I mean, his defense was pretty poor, and the rest of the back three didn't help him.
I'd love to see Placid slot in a fullback if you've got Jack McGregor at 10. I think that's probably the best 10-15 that they could have, if he's there.
Placid was one of the top try scorers of the NRC, wasn't he?
Ralston, yeah.
Ralston, yes, he was.
No, Placid of the NRC. Wasn't he one of the top try scorers in the last year or two?
I think he got quite a few as well. He's spent a bit of time at Toulon. But yeah, look, that NRC team has been depleted a fair bit. They lost Cameron Orr as well. They lost Andrew Deegans, Isaac Vines. This team's actually probably a fair bit weaker than the NRC side. Who plays halfback for you boys, do you reckon, in the weekend for the Brumbies? Do you have Chuck Powell straight back in, or do you give Nick White a start?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I kind of feel like he really was polished. He really was class when he came on, Nick White, particularly one or two of those box kicks. It's not like they need him for this game. I'd almost just give Isaac Fines a start, really. But, I don't know. Like, I suspect that Powell will go back into starting. It's kind of hard to,
if you pick your best team, surely you just pick Powell for 50 and then let Nick White as the composed, experienced halfback trying to get back to fitness, play 30 in the second half.
We'll try to make his case for to be the Wallabies scrum half. So I think that probably sounds the most likely. But in terms of fantasy, I'd love to see Isaac Fines get a start and actually just tear the Force apart. It'd be great.
Yeah. For me, White actually did get 30 on the weekend, so I think we'll see him get more minutes. Whether it is to start the match and see how he goes there, or to close the match out, we'll probably see him get closer to 40 minutes would be my guess. It'd be pretty rough on Powell to not give him the start. But I think there's only a couple of weeks left before finals. It's a time to get Nick White into it more and more, leading into this Wallabies campaign in the back end of the year as well. Also, with that back row for the Brumbies, there's been chopping and changing through there. Murray Douglas, Caden Neville, Nick Frost, Darcy Swain. What was that, Harry?
Second row.
Second row. Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Who fills those two roles? Murray Douglas and Caden Neville were quite solid at set piece. Not that spectacular around the field. But, I mean, that's a tough question for them as well. They've got a couple older heads there. They've got a couple younger guys coming through. How do you think that second row shapes up?
I'd be surprised if they don't just give Neville and Douglas a run again, just because, look, whilst they didn't, play the house down, they were rock solid last week. And particularly the results taking those lineouts, those 5 lineouts against the Tars, who had the best lineout by far. That's huge. So, but I mean, for mine, Nick Frost has been the best lock for the Brumbies in Super Rugby AU. He's an absolute youngster, but an absolute weapon. So, I'd love to see him get more time. And this is definitely a game where you do that, So I don't know. I suspect we'll see Douglas and Neville starting, but I'd love to see Frost definitely on the bench. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
I'm just looking back at the Super Rugby season before the break. Round 1, Darcy Swain started with Murray Douglas. Darcy Swain was obviously meant to be their NRC captain as well before injury. And Caden Neville was on the bench. And then I think there was an injury to Swain for that game. And then Murray Douglas and Caden Neville played pretty much all the way through. So obviously they're all rated above Nick Frost, who I think is unlikely to see any game time unless they're just rotating the squad again. My thought would be if they're going to mix anything up, it's probably give Darcy Swain another run, who might be a little bit underdone for the year as well. And obviously is a bit of a prospect for them.
I think Nick Frost has been used the most out of their lock in recent weeks, to be fair, hasn't he? He's had a few 80-minute performances and a fair bit of game time since COVID.
He a few games, but I just think he's still down their pecking order. I think they're creating competition.
For sure. Yep. How do you see this game going? Do you think that here we go. How much, if you could go 1 to 10, 11 to 20, what decade are the Brumbies going to wallop the Force by here?
What decade? Very good. I'm going to say 40 plus. Boom. There you go.
Oh,
You mean 40 to 50? 41 to 50?
I was going to say 41 to 50 as well, but now I feel like I can't just follow Cargie, so I'll say 51 to 60 then.
Oh,
Wee.
wow.
I wanted 41 to 50. I'm not going to lie, but
I'm going to have to not go higher than that and go 31 to 40. There you go.
Very good.
Nice. All right. The Rebels versus the Tars in Leichhardt. So a home game for the Rebels, another team that has been on the road for a long, long time, coming off the back of a bye. Returning for this one, you got Carmichael Hunt, who should be back, we think, from a minor hammy injury.
A minor hammering. Okay.
And it hasn't actually been confirmed yet. He obviously had a hamstring injury that cost him the start of the season as well. So I think any of those kind of recurrent injuries, they're likely to be a little bit more cautious with. So would not surprise me if he doesn't play. However, I think the Waratahs have this game, then a bye.
Or die.
Is that right?
Yeah. This is their last game if they don't make the finals, so they don't win.
This is kind of like their final, so I think if he's 80%, they might just risk him knowing that he's got a long recovery up until any kind of Wallabies games, which apparently he's not even in the pony squad for anyway. So kind of throw him in there.
Did they sign him for next year? Just sorry, a random aside here, because I remember he'd been saying he wanted to stay around and was
not yet. I don't think.
I think there's a deadline in September sometime, but they're waiting to get some more info about the TV rights still before they sign any higher value players.
Right. Yeah. I guess they've already signed Godwin, haven't they? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Who I really hope does something, considering he's coming to the Tars. Matty Tamua as well had a pretty bad concussion a couple of weeks ago before the bye. So expect to see him, but nothing's guaranteed. You're not hearing anything from the Rebels about that either. Other than the fact that they took him to hospital and he had a scan and it was all clear. So for a neck injury or anything like that. So just a concussion. And I mean, Nelson can tell you firsthand, sometimes those things take a few weeks to get better from. He's been concussed for the best part of 4 years by the looks of his fantasy performances.
Yeah, I just drink my way through it. I think that's what you're meant to do.
Is that not where you thought I was going with that one, Nels?
Something along those lines.
Look, as we said, the Tars need to win this to make the final, so everything is on the line to them. I think the Rebels are more or less the same, except for the fact that they'll play the Reds, I want to say. No. Who do they play in the final week to make finals?
Force.
Oh, they're fine then. So
it could very much well come down to for and against. The Tars are sitting ahead of them by 1 point.
Yeah, okay.
So the Tars
attacking points.
1 bonus point.
And what's the for and against?
I think we're worse. I think it's we've got +9, they've got +18. So we get a bonus point win that puts us 6 ahead, 6 points ahead, and they can't catch us.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. I think that's clearly what the Tars need to be angling for, because the expectation is that the Force are going to be wanting to go home. Last game, truly, in round 4, the Rebels, they beat the Tars 29-10 and were very, very dominant. I think the Tars have been pretty open about saying that they didn't really attack that game. They were very disappointed with their effort in that one. So hopefully that's not a reflection of how this matchup will go this time. There was 2 yellow cards to the Tars, Holloway and Hooper both taking those, and the Rebels just dominated possession at 71% and territory at 75%. And they just made the Waratahs pay for any penalties, kicking 5 penalties as well. So kind of controlled the flow of the game. And I think their discipline and their handling areas and possession for the Tars will be really, really important for them to have a shot. On that note, they are expecting something like 20 degrees and sunny. So perfect conditions for footy. Obviously 7 p.m. So George Regan's going to tell us that it's dewy and not perfect conditions, but if they are going to attack, this will be the night to do it as well. So I think that's definitely in their favour as well. The the Rebels are coming off a bye. Obviously played last week or the week before, sorry, against the Reds. They were really, really disappointing. They went down 19-3. And they've had 2 weeks to plan for this game, which is obviously a massive game for them, setting themselves up for finals. Looking at the teams coming off the bye, the teams have been really, really successful. So from the 5 teams coming off the bye, it's 4 wins and 1 loss. And of course, as a general rule, I don't count the Force in these stats, so we'll ignore them coming back off their buys. But that means
what we call the outlier.
The only team that has lost coming off the bye is the Rebels, but they were playing against the Brumbies. So I think that's a really important thing in that they were playing a form team there as well. What is going on, Nels?
I'm getting attacked by a dog.
Oh, okay. Thought it was like I don't know, don't worry, green monster. Look, I think really it comes down to just which team's going to actually show up for this one, right? Both teams are capable. Both teams have very different styles, but when they play their style well, they have the ability to beat any team. And it's just who do you think will actually show up? I think the conditions favour the Tars. I think the tactical kicking will be really important. I think obviously Matty Tamua has really bossed that, and Deegan as well. And I think you'll see them matching up against the likes of James Ram, Will Harrison.
Hodge in there. There's some absolute cannon boots in there with Hodge as well.
Yeah, that's right, Hodge as well. So I think that kicking game will go a long way to work out where the game is played. And then from there, the Tars have probably got more attacking weapons through the forward pack, whereas the Rebels have probably got that composure and that kind of I guess that, I don't know, they don't have any attack, to be honest. They've got absolutely no ideas when it comes to attack. So the Tars defense being up to it.
Yeah, look, the Rebels just don't regularly score many tries. They did when they had that shellacking against the Brumbies, but other than that, they don't really tend to. Against the Tars in this one, like the last time, yeah, they won by 19 points, but it was one more try. They just kicked every penalty they could. Their first 3 or 4, points in the match were each penalties, penalty after penalty after penalty to stay in that game early on. So, I mean, it's not something we want to see, but I'd be expecting the Rebels to be doing the same, and I'd be expecting the Tars to be going for tries.
And I think Carmichael Hunt, we mentioned before, is a really important factor in that the outcome of this game as well, because he is such a solid defender. He leads the lineup in defence. He's got young men around him, and I think he really adds a lot of calmness to the Waratahs' defensive line. So I think him being fit and healthy and being able to lead that side and be the voice for that side in defence will be a big, big difference maker for them as well. On the flip side, in the backs, the Rebels, I just don't see them changing. I think Deegan and Tamua has been a good combination for them. I think we're seeing Magnate grow every single game. I think Corabetti, Callaway have been solid on the wings, and Hodges found a bit of a home in the fullback in that Rebels side. DHP may be close coming back from his MCL injury. I think that was round 3, and they said 5 weeks. So you may see him come back, which I assume you just put Hodge straight back to the bench. But that's probably the only change from me that you could see. The other thing, I think,
it seems quick from an MCL, doesn't it?
Look, 4 to 6 weeks is pretty standard. So you do see a lot of them come back at 4 weeks, and there's some new ways that they can try and heal those up quicker. And if they're not quite right, they can kind of tape them up pretty successfully as well, to be honest. So no, it's not too quick. It's definitely doable.
Can I suggest Bill Meeks? I'm not getting too much time there. Can I suggest next year he comes to the Waratahs and Kyle Godwin can stay in Western Australia?
Matt, I like Godwin.
I
bring Meeks as well, though. Bring them both.
I like Meeks.
Yeah, I don't know. You just like Meeks because he's got your head.
Beautiful man.
Look, the Rebels have got a very improved pack, I think. All Ulysses Pony I've been really impressed with. Philip and Hosea, the same. Kemeny, Hardwick and Nasarani, I think, is where their only question is. I think maybe Brad Wilkin gets a start at 7, having said that. And Kemeny, I think you guys are thinking the same thing as me. I just don't really see what he's offering. I mean, a couple of people have given him raps as a promising young man from what he's done so far, but other than make a few tackles, I'm not seeing it. I don't know what he's offering.
I haven't seen a lot of him. He's a very big body that can fill that role, which gives them a line out option and things as well. He's quite young. He is relatively solid in defence and over the ball, but we just haven't really seen him, be that have much of an effect on the match through here. And they do have a lot of stocks in that back row. They do have a few guys that we're going to touch on in a little bit that could fill that role that we'd love to see have a crack in that back row.
Yeah, he's got the size about him to be that like enforcer role, that Lockie Swinton type, get in everyone's face, make some big carries. But I have yet to see him get in anyone's face or make some big carries.
He's 6'4" and 104 kgs.
Yeah, I think that could be, So he's big.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'm yet to work out what type of game he's actually trying to play. Is he the physical guy? Is he the work rate guy? Is he the runner? I have no idea. I just don't see him on the field.
None of those at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what Nelson was alluding to was, we just want to see some of these sevens boys get on. We say it every week, but I mean, I don't care if they play flank. I feel like sevens players, more or less, you can play them at flanker or anywhere in the back line.
Realistically, you've got the option of Skelton and Killingsworth to throw in that back row. Killingsworth would be an absolute machine of an open side flanker, and Skelton would be amazing in that 6 jersey. Give Skelton a run in that 6 jersey.
To be honest, I'd put Skelton on in any jersey. I don't really care. Just get him on the field. He is incredible, but they literally are keeping their Ferraris parked in the garage. You know what I mean? It's like Dave Vessels doesn't want his job next year. He wants to move back to South Africa. He's had enough. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway.
I don't know if you can quite call them Ferraris, champ, but I agree. I'd like to see them have a run at professional football.
Yeah, that's it. I think they're Ferraris and sevens. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I think the most likely guy you could say there, Ferrari, is Skelton. Young gun that has so much potential. Holland, I think, is a really, really solid player. Beautiful pass and things on him, but he's just not a role they need at the moment. And Killingsworth seems like a very good option at 7, but they've also got a few 7s there that can fill that role. The one thing they seem to really be lacking out of those 3 options is a 6.
Yeah. Look, wrapping this one up as well, I just want to see Nwanganitawasi get another run. I think he's paid for his poor defence, and I think that's probably what they've taken him off the pitch to go and work on. I don't know how he gets a run because Newsom is the vice captain unless he ends up at outside centre again, which, I mean, I'm not against either because everyone else playing in that jersey has been absolute rubbish. James Ram must start every single week, so I think that's probably the only way Nwanganitawasi gets a run. But I just want to see him play. I think he's an attacking weapon. The Tars like scoring tries, and they should put him on the park.
I think for all of us, we'd put Newsom into 13 and put Marky Mark on the wing. I think.
I think that suits Newsom as well. Hard running lines outside Hunt. I don't mind that at all.
I'll be honest. It doesn't matter who we put in the 13 jersey. We're basically playing with 14 men.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a fair point. All right, how do we see this game going? Who wants to call it first? Give us a scoreline. I'm going to pick Nelson. You went last time. What do you got for us?
I'm only going to pick this because it has to happen. Look, my brain tells me the Rebels are going to win this one, but the Tars have come out firing in matches that have been important. Last week, they let it slip and a lot of things went against them. So I think if the Tars can come out firing early in this one, I think they can get it done. But if they do get it done, it's going to be tight. So it's probably going to be, either team just winning. Just because I'm wearing my Waratahs jersey, I'll say the Tars by 3. Purely because I'm wearing a Waratahs jersey.
Harry, are you more or less optimistic than that?
I think I'm equally optimistic, but look, I'm trying to work out the silver lining from their past performances and say, when they get dusted, then they come back really hard. But the only time they did that is when they got dusted by the Rebels and they came and walloped the Reds, and the Reds looked off their game. I think if the Rebels are on their game, they'll win. I don't think the Tars have enough to beat a team really on form at the moment. But I think if they're a little bit off and the Tars can get their tails up, they've just got enough attacking flair that they can kind of blow teams away with some of their attacking weapons. But I'll tip the Rebels by 5, and I'll be putting my money on the Tars by 1-12.
Excellent. That's that could be irresponsible, but look, we might even get out to that game. It is at Leichhardt, and as we've said, if it doesn't go to plan, is the Tars' last game for the season. So it'll be it's a while till they play again.
It's going to be Nelson's last game of the season in fantasy footy as well.
Very good.
Not ours.
It probably will be yours, Harry.
Oh,
No.
shots fired. Yeah, sorry. I'm going to pick. Look, I'm going to pick the Tars. Just I don't know. Want to be optimistic, and I'll say 5.
The Tars haven't had many games where it's really got away from them. To be honest, it's probably just the Brumbies is the only game that really got away from them, because they've been close in every other single one that they've lost, haven't they?
No, they got walloped by the Rebels, didn't they?
The Rebels beat them by 19. Yeah, sorry. We were just chatting about that, though. It was only by 1 try. Where the first time they lost to the Brumbies by a point, first time they lost to the Reds was by less than a try. Then they smashed the Tars. They smashed the Reds. Like, the games don't tend to really blow out against them, especially if they come out quite solid. So I think this is a game that they'll man up and come out. So that's me looking for my silver lining. I think in their recent matches, they can put it together, but they need a solid start.
I think the worrying thing is the Tars have only won 3 games. That's 2 against the Western Force and 1 against the Reds in New South Wales, which is, their biggest rivalry of the year. So that was the one they had to win.
Yep, the Rebels have won against the Tars, Reds, and Force.
And Brumbies.
So they've only won 3. They haven't beat the Reds then.
They drew with the Reds.
Yeah, true.
All right. Well, that was a fascinating exchange, and that's going to take us, move us swiftly along to dessert.